All right. It's so good to finally meet you. We're both local, and you are doing a bunch of things that I am very interested in. And it turns out we actually have a mutual friend. We probably have
I,
several if we
yeah.
dig a little bit deeper, considering we're in the same area. But Brandy, hi, Terry.
Yes,
Yeah, she's one of my really good friends. We go play pickleball together every Sunday we can.
that's awesome.
Yeah,
She's my soul sister. First time I met her, we were kindred spirits.
that's kind of how I felt about her too. She was wonderful, and she's into all of this kind of stuff too,
I
which is
love it.
so you have an apothecary.
I do.
Tell me about that. How'd you get started? What got you here?
Wow. So my past history, I worked as a dental hygienist, so I have a background in health and wellness. It was a beautiful opportunity to connect with people and to love on them, to teach them, to grow with them. Um, And I lived in Arizona during that time. My family and I moved here to Alabama in 2021, January. And shortly thereafter, I created a little blueberry farm. You pick blueberries. Um, but still, I didn't find that connection that I needed to people, although I loved my connection to the earth and growing berries. And we were walking through the Crepe Myrtle Festival, and I came across a lady who was selling tinctures. And to be honest, I've never really used tinctures. I may have been somewhat familiar with them. And they were functional mushrooms. She also was a hygienist. So I had that commonality with her and felt connected. And bought a tincture from her, took it home, put it up in my cabinet, and forgot about it for 6 months.
Sure.
And something compelled me one day I looked in the cabinet and I was like, I'm going to try this. But I wasn't sure. Do I put one dropper full, one drop? Do I put a whole dropper full? So I started to experiment and with less. And I stayed consistent for a month. And I started to feel subtle changes. I'm a very energetic person. I just am I like to do things. I like to explore. And I started to, sorry, my sister's texting me. Um, I started to feel different and I wanted to investigate that. So I reached out to the lady and I was like, "Can you tell me more about this? Can you help me understand?" And I'm a skeptic by nature. Um, there is nothing that we can't do, right? If we're interested in it, um, we can figure it out. So I wanted to learn how to do this for myself. As I started to research, I found studies that were saying that most of the mushroom products on the shelves, 70% didn't even contain mushrooms. It's expensive. I didn't want to put my money and my faith in somebody else. I already had a product that I knew where she, procured her mushrooms, and I wanted to learn how to do it. And she was gracious enough to allow me that. So I reached out to the apothecary in which she got her functional mushrooms, and I started volunteering there. Um, I wanted to gain as much knowledge as I could. So I spent almost a year volunteering, learning, and I had this desire in my heart that I just wanted to create tinctures. To me, that was what I was compelled to do. Um, Tinctures allow us to pull the full spectrum out of mushrooms. They have amazing medicinal value. They have, if you've ever watched Fantastic Fungi on Netflix,
Yes.
it's mind blowing. And
Mhm.
truly to understand our connection, we actually have more DNA in common with mushrooms than we do with plants.
Yes.
That blew me away. Um, so I started to create tinctures for myself. Going through menopause, I was like, what can I do? How can I create something? And it really just grew from there. Um, and anything is possible if we put our mind to it. and all the little doors opened to allow me to continue to grow and learn and create. And so I find myself here in Athens, Alabama. I have a little apothecary in my home. Um, where I can create and connect and serve other people. I appreciate the markets that I get to go to because I'm not that kind of person that's like, so how's the weather today? I like to dive deep. Tell
Yes.
me your deepest, darkest, secret. What can I do to help? Um, and I find with having that open heartedness that people do share, and we're all very similar. We all on this human journey are all experiencing a little different, but a lot of the same. So I find that my ability to connect and love on people that way is incredibly fulfilling. So it's a win-win.
Awesome. There's so much to unpack here. I'm so excited that we did this. I I'm a huge fan of mushrooms, and it's so funny because I have a big old water bottle that I carry around with me. It's got mushroom stickers all over it,
Yeah.
and it never fails. If someone notices it, they go, "So, you're into
Mm,
mushrooms?" And I'm like, "Yeah, mushrooms." And they're like, "I don't know. I could never do drugs." And I'm like, "No, wait, wait."
right. Yeah.
They don't get it. So that's
Yeah.
always what people think of immediately. Um, do you grow your own mushrooms?
I do not. I have, and nor do I forage them myself at this point in my journey. I am committed to only using high quality mushroom extracts. I purchase mushroom like lion's mane or reishi, whatever I can get from farmers markets, and I allow the growing part to the people that have a passion for that, that understand that it is very fickle and
Uh-huh.
there's a lot to it. So I
Yeah.
haven't dove in there,
Yeah.
not yet.
I have a lot of people come because I'm so like mushrooms all over the place. I have people come to me and they're like asking me if I could they'll send me a picture of a mushroom that they found in their yard or something. And they'll be like, is this? And I'm like, I mean, okay, look, I
Yeah,
know enough about mushrooms to know that none of us know enough about mushrooms. Just don't. Just don't. Like it's great if you want to. Yes, go study. That's not something that you can really learn from books and
right.
self-taught. You have to go study underneath someone. Are you familiar with Midway mushrooms?
No.
They're local. They're a
Okay.
local mushroom farm, and I say local. I think they're in Tennessee. So um, you kind of have to expand your horizon a little bit when you talk about some things locally. Little Athens, Alabama doesn't really locally technically have anything much,
Yeah.
but go out a little bit and you can find it. So I'm trying to get them on as well to talk about mushrooms.
Okay. There is another gentleman that runs Ivy and Rain, um, and he grows mushrooms. That's who I get mine from in the farmer's market.
Okay.
And he's got a pretty cool system going. So yeah, I would check that out too.
Thank you. I wrote that down and I absolutely will.
Awesome.
So you're originally from Arizona. Did you grow up there, born and raised?
Born and raised.
What
Yep.
brought you here?
Well, COVID. I
Oh,
think COVID had so many blessings to it. I think it changed our way of thinking about our possibilities of what we could do. My husband works for Raytheon, and so he was able, let me step back. So during COVID, he had to work from home, like a
mhm.
lot of people. And that got us thinking, huh, if we work from home, where do we want our home to be? And my oldest sister, and we're very close, lives in Sevierville, Tennessee. But we needed to be close enough to his work in case he did need to go to the office. So we kind of just found a place where we thought we would explore. And so many things are just divinely inspired. And we found this wonderful place and started planting roots.
Awesome.
That's kind of, yeah, that's kind of how it all came about.
Has
And
it
there
been
has, There hasn't been one day that I ever regretted moving here. The people are kind, the energy is wonderful. Um, I just have great experiences being here.
Well,
It's great
good.
for the kids. Yeah.
Was it any kind of a culture shock? Because it's basically on the other side of the US from Arizona.
Right. I think the way that I was brought up has a lot of commonalities to the culture here. So for me, I felt like a snug bug. I was like, I'm home. This feels wonderful. So no, I didn't feel like I had a culture shock.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Your experience may have been a little bit different had you started out here like from the beginning. When it comes to natural remedies,
Yeah.
when I started getting into natural remedies, the pushback I had from friends and family was just insane. Nobody
Oh,
trusts a plant. They want all the pills and the doctors. And
yeah.
I have it's the more you know, the more it feels like knowledge is a curse and you can't go back. You can't unlearn the things you.
Right.
So now I'm unfortunately increasingly afraid of the healthcare system and don't want to go anywhere near it whatsoever. I had to do a survey every year. We have to my our insurance has this program where you get this a set amount of like it's a discount if you
Mm,
their little program and their little health thing. And so you have to like jump through all of these hoops every single year. And I absolutely hate it. And for example, yesterday, I've been ranting about this since I had to do the survey yesterday because they
okay.
want to see about your overall health, right?
Okay.
And because of the way I'm built, they think I'm obese. And I'm also high risk because I don't do preventative care. But I do preventative care. I do tons of preventative care. I'm grade A and because I saw when I was growing up, all of my grandparents were just living on handfuls of pills, surgery after surgery after surgery after surgery, always in the hospital. Someone was always dying, and we were having to stay at their house to take care of them around the clock. And I w- so and then I had a lot of health problems.
Okay.
I started passing out regularly when I was about 14, I think it was, and was diagnosed with hypoglycemia. And the only advice that I was ever given for it was, well, you just have to eat more.
Okay.
Well, it doesn't matter how much you eat if you're eating the wrong things. And then healthy eating, the only concept that anyone had of what healthy eating was a salad with fried chicken drenched in cheese and ranch dressing, like that's not
Yep.
exact. And it's just like, your basic no nutritional iceberg lettuce. It's not even like
Yeah.
spinach or arugula or anything with any kind of like
Yeah.
density to it. And so nothing got better. And so I lived my entire teenage years and early 20s. I was, I couldn't go outside because I couldn't get too hot. I couldn't do too much physical activity or I would pass out. And then on top of
Mhm.
that, I would walk outside and my allergies were so bad that my eyes would swell shut, couldn't breathe. I'd randomly break out in hives. I got sent home from school at least a handful of times because we went outside to the playground and oh, Savannah's covered in hives, head to toe now. Somebody come get her. And so got into my early 20s and I looked sickly. You could look at me and tell that something was wrong. I was pale because I couldn't go outside and do anything. Um, my weight wasn't great then at all. It's fine now. And that's why I've been ranting since yesterday about this thing
Okay.
I had to do because the BMI scale, we could go on about that.
Right. Yeah.
Because I'm short, and because I'm short is anyway. Um, then I got into my early 20s. I got married. We got pregnant with our first child, and then we lost him at 15 weeks. And that's when it really started like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
people don't evolve to be this sickly. It's supposed to be survival of the fittest, right?
Right.
Like, what is going on? Why is everybody in my life so sickly? So that's when I started diving into health and nutrition and just trying to find the answers to what was going on. And stumbled across a whole world of webinars is what I found, on the internet. So that I was introduced to the natural health world and personal development world through webinars online. And I just started binging them day in and day out. I was just listening to these things. And, you know, we think we know what healthy eating is until we actually start doing it. And so this I didn't realize that my diet was so bad because I was living off of ramen noodles and Hot Pockets and tortilla chips, and that was like the consistency of my diet right there. There was no fruits and vegetables. And it's the culture because I was raised, we didn't have fruits and vegetables unless we grew it ourselves in the garden. So like we did do that, but uh they couldn't season food. They didn't know how to cook it. So I didn't really eat it.
Yep.
But we couldn't have fruits and vegetables because those were too expensive. And so you get on the other side of this and you start eating healthy. And a lot of people struggle with it because, dieting is the only thing that people know. And it shouldn't, and dieting is hard because it's restrictive and it's
Sure.
calorie based. And long story short, I figured out that nature provides everything that we need if we just trust it to. And so I ended up just I wasn't looking for this, but falling into the world of essential oils.
Yep.
And so that's what got me started with after I was fixing my diet, I got into the essential oils and was like blown away by all of the benefits and how, a medication, and I'm not anti pills. I'm not anti-Western medicine at all. I just think that maybe we should try this and this and this before we run straight to the doctor and get the pills that are going to uh, always have alternative side effects that are most often not good side effects. Like if you use a tincture or an oil or, whatever, a natural product for your ailment, if you get a side effect, and you most oftentimes do get a side effect, usually it's a good side effect. It's like, oh, I was taking this for anxiety and suddenly my inflammation's gone. Or,
Yeah.
oh, I was taking this for my allergies and suddenly my anxiety's gone. It's just
Yeah.
wonderful the surprises that you can get with that. But the pushback was insane.
You really hit on something when you asked, about the culture. I agree 100%. In retrospect, that was something that is profoundly different, and that is the diet, and not dieting, but what this Southern culture consumes. At the same time, it's very confusing because for people because I've lived long enough to have seen, oh, butter's bad for you. No, wait, butter's good for you. There are so many confusing things that it's hard to really narrow down what am I supposed to eat,
Hmm.
and recognizing that we stay out of the central part of the grocery store.
Hmm.
Anything that's really good for us, right, is going to be along the perimeter. That's going to be fruits and vegetables, that's going to be meat, etc. Um, just keeping that mindfulness there. The thing that I really, really love about functional mushrooms is most of them are adaptogenic.
Yes.
That means whatever is going on inside our individual bodies can be managed through taking adaptogens, right? For the most part, we're going to be getting we're going to be getting the nutrients and the cellular repair and balance based upon what our body needs. Our body will absorb it. There's just innate wisdom within those. So even if we don't know what we're deficient in, well, the tinctures, the functional mushrooms help to rebalance that. Um, there was something I was gonna say, and I this puppy of mine is distracting.
We love the
um,
puppies.
yeah. Hey, by the way, these all of my dogs get mushrooms too, but not all mushrooms are good for dogs. Even the ones that are good for humans, some are can be toxic. So it's important to do our research. Um, what was the other thing that you touched on that was very compelling? It'll come to me. It'll come to me. All right. All right,
Yeah,
Penelope, get done.
ashwagandha is a adaptogen that is
Yep.
becoming more famous. And that's something that I found about 6 years ago, about 5.5 years ago. I just suddenly out of nowhere broke out in eczema that was so bad it was eating my skin. And I'm not talking like just regular patches of eczema. It was like digging deep into my skin, and I was having which was causing staph infections, which is super scary if nobody's
Yeah.
ever been familiar with that. And I went to three different regular doctor, well, one regular doctor, two dermatologists. All three told me it was just something I would have to live with for the rest of my life. Sorry. The best thing they had was the more sunlight you can get on it, the better it'll be.
Okay.
So I was literally just bathing in the sun around the clock and it wasn't helping at all whatsoever. But I found this naturalistic doctor in Pulaski, and I went to her, and she took one look at me and was like, "Oh, this is something allergy based that's causing this. We're going to put you on an elimination diet." Which is you take out all of the main allergens from your diet. She said after about 2 weeks, you'll start to notice a difference.
Okay.
And then we'll slowly add back one thing at a time. And but she also prescribed ashwagandha at that point in time and was like, she had me taking I don't know the milligrams
Okay.
because I didn't really care. She just told me to take four. She says the container says take two, take four. You can't OD on it. And as
Okay.
much as we can get in there, the better. And sure enough, within a month, not only was the eczema almost completely gone, but for the first time in my life, so was my anxiety. And I'd had anxiety my whole life so bad that I didn't speak at all for like the first 20 years of my life. And not that I was mute, but unless I was very comfortable with you, like just one person at a time, and I had to be comfortable with that one person, I literally couldn't make words come out of my mouth. So I would just like stare at people.
Okay.
But and I always explained to my husband because he'd be like, "Well, what's causing it?" Kind of like, "Sorry, I'm having a panic attack right now." And he'd be like, "Well, what's causing it?" Literally nothing. Like I was completely fine. I was just cooking dinner and suddenly, I'm like, it's not my mind, it's my body. Because a
Yeah.
lot of people think that anxiety is based on your thought processes and worry, essentially. And it can be, that is a branch of anxiety. Mine was physical. Mine
Yeah.
was my body, it's not me. I don't know what's going on. And turns out it was allergy based. So, and it was the same allergy that was causing the eczema, and it just kind of got overwhelmed in my system. But yeah, that's where I got introduced to ashwagandha, and now me and my husband both take it every single day.
Yeah. So you think about when we talked about the diet, right? We we have microbiome in our gut,
Yes.
which can be overgrown with good bacteria or nefarious bacteria and sugar and all these other processed foods that we consume on a regular basis because it's the societal norm,
Yep.
uh, help to feed the good bacteria or the not good bacteria. Serotonin, our feel good hormone, is grown or produced in our gut.
Mm-hmm.
So that diet and affects the way that we feel physically, but also mentally.
Mm-hmm.
Um, with ashwagandha being that adaptogen, your body was able to adjust to what it needed by using that, right? So there are a variety of herbs that are adaptogens, like ginseng, right?
Mm-hmm.
Other functional mushrooms, not all, but a good portion of them. So even, whatever we're lacking, it can be that gap can be filled by utilizing these natural products. Um, I keep having my brain. Maybe I need to take some more lion's mane mushroom. I should have had more protein this morning so that my brain can function better. Um, anyway,
Yeah, there's a whole class of people who are obsessed with mushrooms, and it's so sad that the ones that you get at the grocery store aren't really good for much anything.
right. Interestingly, I mean, nutritionally, right? They're high in minerals and vitamin D. So you are getting nutritional value. But I think if you go to a Chinese
Yeah.
grocery store, you're going to see such a vast variety. And then the way that they cook them helps to extract those medicinal properties out, right? Um, but that's the thing about mushrooms, they have locked inside of them uh, these this natural medicine. But on the outer layer of mushrooms, they have what is called chitin, which is similar to shellfish, or but it's obviously in a different type of outer exterior, right? So that chitin has to be broken down. So you have water soluble compounds and you have alcohol soluble compounds that are valuable to our body. So putting them in a dual extraction, you're going to be absorbing they're going to be bioavailable, meaning your body can, on a cellular level, can absorb all of that beautiful medicine. But cooking with them, um, sauteing them, that helps to release that, breaks that chitin down and allows you to absorb those water soluble compounds.
Yeah, enter while we use alcohol for tinctures.
Correct. That's right. Yeah. And just like we extract the essence of vanilla beans via alcohol, it's no different. So I know some people may be hesitant. Well, it's in an alcohol base, but this is how medicine has been made for thousands of years. And so just following that time-honored tradition, creating a simple, easy to use little tincture. Yep.
Yes, the medicine that we have, like Western medicine with the pills and whatnot, originally started as the tinctures and extracted from plants and other medicinal natural products found out in the world, in nature,
That's right.
where, our actual habitat is supposed to be. And
That,
once people started realizing that you could extract these and compound them into pill form is when we started seeing an attack on natural remedies. And here we are, like 100 or so years later. It's really not been that long. And
yeah.
people have really short memories because, I've only been around in this world for 30 so years. And, my grandparents have only been around in this world for 70 something years. So they weren't here. They didn't remember when it was normal to use these natural remedies.
Right. So in the research that I've done, what happens is pharmaceutical companies find the one compound that they feel is medicinal. This is it. Try to replicate it. However, plants are not just a single um, eh, eh, um, compound that's going to be medicinal, right? There is a full spectrum about that entire plant that is beneficial to us. So just withdrawing the one thing that they believe to be therapeutic, you're not getting the full essence. And there was a time. So we think that over the past 100 years or so, there was like an herbal dark age.
Hmm.
So our grandparents, so I think of my grandparents would, be in their hundreds by now. So it had just started to be reintroduced maybe in the 40s. So of course, we think of the Appalachians, and they've always continued with that time honored tradition of teaching their children and their children's children about herbs. And so we didn't lose it all.
Hmm.
But for the most part, um, we did. We had just a dark age where most of that history was lost. Now, we think about using herbs in the culinary, right? So that's kind of how it started to come back. Rosemary and oregano, and we cook with those things, but they weren't used necessarily medicinally. Um, or that's what they were used for, is just culinary, but not recognizing the medicinal value. So I am so grateful to live in this time um, where we're starting to get that knowledge back and being able to teach my kids about alternative ways, um, because I want to keep that ripple effect going. And I agree with you. Western medicine has very important place in society. However, there has to be balance, and we have to eliminate fear. And I think that that was probably intentional,
Hmm.
right? The fear of mushrooms. Don't touch it. If it touches your skin, you're gonna die. That's that's not true. It has to go through the mucous membrane for you to absorb those toxins. And
Hmm.
yes, some are deadly. It is not something we need to mess around with, right? And even psychedelics have incredible therapeutic value. However, our love of mushrooms is, we're not advertising, right? uh, Psychedelics necessarily, but recognizing that not all mushrooms do have medicinal and therapeutic value for body and the mind. And psychedelics are being used now to treat people with severe depression, PTSD, but it needs to be in a setting that is guided and, you know, with a professional, because
Yeah.
it can alter your psyche. So, but we're not talking about those. We're truly just talking about withdrawing the medicinal compounds from functional mushrooms and allowing it to do the beautiful work inside our body.
Yeah, there's good things and bad things across the board in all areas of every single thing
Absolutely.
in
Absolutely.
existence.
Yes.
So knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power. I want to share one thing with you just about my own personal journey.
Oh.
When I started to feel some subtle differences going on in my body, I wanted something that was measurable, because to me, then I have proof, right, of what's happening. So um, for 10 years prior, I had what was called chronic leukopenia, meaning that my white blood cell count was virtually, nothing. Sent to an oncologist, don't have cancer, can't tell you why, you're really healthy. I don't really take any medications. Um, so I thought, well, won't that be interesting? So after about 30 days, I got my labs done. 14 months later, I had my labs done again. And mind you, that was 10 years of chronic leukopenia. I was now 1/10% being back into the normal range of what Western medicine says is a healthy normal range for my immune system. That was important to me because I think that disease starts out very small. We don't notice it,
Hmm.
but there is a cascade of things that happens when our bodies are chronically out of balance. And being able to put into my body what it needed to repair itself to keep that continual breakdown, which is was going to trigger another thing, which was going to trigger another thing. And I think that that's where we find ourselves as a society. We go to the doctor because we're unwell.
Mhm.
Well, managing that symptom short term causes, like you said, other issues that then you need to take a pill for that, to take a pill for that. But if we think about taking care of ourselves and doing things preventatively, so although you're not doing what they say you need to
Traditional.
do for preventative, you do yoga, you meditate, you have a good diet, all of these things are going to have long-term effects for your mental health, your physical well-being, um, to where you won't become dependent upon covering up symptoms of disease. Let's get to the root of it. Let's put things into our body that are going to help our bodies to heal, to stay well, so that we have the energy to be able to love on others. And we all have gifts and talents. And if we're not well, we have a hard time sharing those.
Yes, absolutely. I remember being really resentful to my grandmother when she was so sick because
Mhm.
I just, in my head, I was just replaying like how selfish it is not to take care of yourself. Because if you don't take care of yourself,
Yeah.
eventually your children are going to have to take care of you. And I saw the wear and tear it took on my dad when he was having to work 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, and then coming home, he has two small children. I say small children. Uh, I was a preteen, and then my sister's 5 years younger than me. So he had two kids that he had to take care of, a wife, and then on top of that, he was having to stay the night with his mother because
Yeah.
she couldn't take care of herself. And I was just so resentful. And that was one of the things also that I was like, just it was in my head for when
Hmm.
I later on in life started figuring it out and was like, oh, okay, well, yes, eat more broccoli. Got it. Um, but pills, that's exactly what it's doing, is covering up symptoms. It's not healing anything. And doctors, we don't want to place blame on them. They're a product of their system as well. And we could really go deep into all of that and how the colleges get to decide what truth is and what they teach these doctors. And
Sure.
then bless their hearts, they go into it with good intentions, usually, not always. Nothing's 100% in any direction. But their hands are tied. They don't have the time to sit down with you and like, let's discuss your lifestyle. Let's discuss
Sure.
your stress levels. Let's discuss your exercise, your diet. What does your normal day-to-day food intake look like? How are you
Mhm.
sleeping? What about your uh, emotional connections, your relationships? How are those? Because all of these things play into your health. And
That's right.
most people don't realize how much of an impact stress and your mental state has on your physical state. Because, in Western culture, we want to section everything off. The mind is over here just floating in space and has nothing to do with your emotions. It has nothing to do with your physical body. And
Sure.
that's not true. It's all tied in together, which can be really overwhelming for people, especially like you grow up in this culture. This is all very, in Eastern culture, they'd be like, of course, duh. You go in there for a knee problem and you leave with a
Yep.
shoulder thing. And you're like, how does A equal B? And they're like, you're a whole body. They
Yep.
have no concept of like, you don't go to an ENT for your sinuses and then a foot doctor for your feet. It's just all the same doctor who looks at your entire being.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what I appreciate about that. And watching Fantastic Fungi, you see that there is actual energy in the growing and the mushroom, and it's a living being, right? So we think about us being energetic beings. We are all made of energy, right? And when we think a thought, it releases a chemical, which releases, you know, hormones, and it is all interconnected. Um, so I love what you just said because that just resonates to absolute truth.
And thank you for that whole thing because I say it all the time. It took me going back to earlier, you mentioned being a skeptic. And I also am a skeptic, which is funny because most people don't peg me for one because I'm all like, sure, magic, yeah. But I mean, like, what is reality? It's all, again, the more you know, the more you kind of wish you didn't, and you
Yeah.
can't go back. So
Right.
you really get into it. s- Life doesn't make any sense, whatever, whatsoever. It's
Right.
much more abstract than we want to think it is. And, our human brains want to categorize everything and make it
Sure.
concrete and solid, but you really can't do that with anything. So we might as well just throw it all out the window and just have fun. But anyway, I started it kind of fell in my lap. It's not something I was looking to do, but I recently started practicing Reiki. So I went and got certified and it just, man, did I feel dumb. I'm like, what do you mean rubbing my hands over your aura is going to do anything? And then I had, luckily I have a very good friend she's been a Reiki practitioner, Reiki master for a while, and so is her mother-in-law. And so, like, they helped stabilize me into this because I was just like, this is silly. I don't understand it because I need the science. Like,
Yeah.
yes, I enjoy the woo-woo and the crazy, but also like I need the science to bridge the gap and understand. So like I've been really into quantum physics the past couple of years and understanding all of that. And I had a Reiki master come on the podcast last year, and she actually she also had a similar, like, she was a chemistry professor at
Oh,
college and
okay.
ended up, like, she just one thing led to another. And like she said, she was having some issue. In a nutshell, her story is she was having some issues. Her friend was like, let me take you to this Reiki practitioner, and she was like, okay. And then went to it, and lo and behold, it helped. And then she started researching it, and then next thing like this went to that, and now she doesn't even teach chemistry anymore. She's just a full-time Reiki practitioner. And she was helping me bridge the gap between the science and the woo-woo with it, which is
Yeah.
a lot. And but yeah, it's has a lot to do with our emotional state and the stress levels associated with that. People don't understand. There's nothing more important. We get overwhelmed, like, okay, I want to heal. I recognize all of these problems I have within me, but I'm overwhelmed. Like, where do I even start? You
Yeah.
start with your stress levels. You start
Yeah.
with your emotional state because that's going to ricochet and expand and ripple out to everything else.
Yeah. You start right where you're at.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's going to be, it's powerful.
It is,
Yeah.
and it's too simple for people to want to hold on to. They don't feel like it should be that easy. And it's not easy at all.
Right.
But also, once you get the hang of it, it is. And that's why I teach my yoga practice is it's yin restorative yoga. So we don't do a whole lot. It's not super active. You don't usually break a sweat. A lot of times we spend most of our class on the floor, either sitting or lying down in simple stretches. And just the simplest of stretches have the most powerful impact on people.
Yeah.
Um, because th the vast majority of the class is spent in a slow meditative state. So I'm talking the whole time. I'm guiding you through um, mental exercises and calming techniques and releasing, letting go. And it's once you get into it, you understand, you start seeing the patterns and whatnot, and it starts to unfold. The hardest part is being super aware of everything right now in this moment
Right.
so that you can choose rather than
Yes.
react.
That's right. I did in the end of 2019. I did a 200-hour hatha yoga. teacher training. And then, COVID hit and everything shut down.
Mhm.
But that was the thing that I appreciated the most out of that teacher intensive. You cannot hold your body in a pose in hatha and think at the same time.
True.
You had to force your brain to stay in this moment, which created awareness,
Mhm.
which created mindfulness. And it just is such a healing thing for your nervous system,
Mhm.
right? And I think that the way that our society is set up, we are going 100 miles an hour all the time. And I don't know that our DNA is ready for that type of um, energy level.
Yeah.
So I find that there are so many of us that are just frazzled
Mhm.
um, because we're not wired that way yet. It takes thousands of years for us to adapt to the next way of going.
Mhm.
And we are going so quickly that we just haven't been able to adapt to that. So, intentionally taking the time to sit quietly and be aware and be mindful, even if it's for 5 minutes, can have profound effects on our physical body. Um, so I just wanted to throw that in there. I'm right there with you. Trying to understand quantum physics and right as we're talking about, moving so fast, learning and growing and stuff and trying to wrap our brains around what are we really doing here? What is going on? It's such a spiritual and grounding experience being human and yeah, trying to do all these things. But I think what we have in common is the desire to help to improve other people's lives. And whatever means that is, we're all called to do something a little bit different. But just having the open heartedness, making ourselves available, and the people that need what we have to offer will find us.
Yeah, and in between all of that, we'll build the mental strength to not worry about the ones that
That's right.
don't agree. And, it's just because they don't understand. I still get attacked when I post. No kidding. This might come. Here's a culture shock for you.
Okay. All
Uh,
right.
when I post things about yoga and meditation in uh, community Facebook groups, it never fails. I get a handful of people attacking me about how uh, meditation is communing with spirits and how
Mm.
nobody, no religious people should go anywhere near it. It's devil's work, kind of stuff like that. And I'm just like,
Fear. It's
it
fear.
is, it is.
And meditation and prayer are synonymous. I
They
think
are.
when we
Thank you.
meditate, when we pray, we're talking to our Heavenly Father. When we meditate, we're listening. We're allowing
Right.
Him to talk through us. Yeah. Or just, it doesn't mean we have an auditory, sound coming, but in our hearts, we're connecting with the divine, however we may see him. And that does, it makes me sad to think that there is that much fear out there because I think it's a limiting factor to our spiritual growth.
Absolutely. Um, Backing up just a little bit, I didn't grow up with cell phones. And I think that's when cell phones and social media is when everything started to really go too fast for us to keep up with.
Agreed. Yeah.
And now we're having to learn how to balance our nervous system. Whereas beforehand, nobody, it's a new concept learning to balance your nervous system because before cell phones and social media, it wasn't necessary. Everyone had periods of quiet time where they would just kind of sit around and stare at the curtains and like notice the patterns and the textures just because you didn't have anything else to do. And that
Right.
is meditation. When I first started getting into meditate, because it didn't really have anything to do originally with my health and healing journey. It was when I was in college and I was like, because I had just kind of picked, I had to go to college. It was like mandatory in my family, and
Right.
I did not want to. Traditional school was just really not for me. I love to learn, but I don't like to learn about these basic things that just regurgitating. And I was interested in things that I couldn't find info on, like, herbal stuff and
Yeah.
yeah. So I just kind of picked something and started going with it. And then as like the end of my college days approached, I was like, oh no, I need to figure this out. I need to figure out exactly what path I'm going down. So I just started Googling how to be successful. And because I mean, like, where do we start? And the lowest common denominator of successful people I found was they take care of themselves and they meditate. Like, okay, all of these successful people are meditating. What is that? So I Googled it. What is meditation? And I kid you not, it's different now. But back then, when I Googled what is meditation, the Google definition was the act of meditating. Great. Okay.
What
Not
does that mean?
sure what
Yeah.
to do with that. But so I just kept on looking, kept on Googling, kept on searching, and come to find out once I figured it out, it was like, oh, I've actually been meditating my entire life. When I was grounded and locked in my room and staring at my ceiling for 4 hours at a time, just playing in my head. Or if I'm like when I was at school and I wasn't paying attention at all to what the teachers were saying because I was mentally in a completely different dimension, just
Okay.
like imagining this or that, daydreaming. That's
Mhm.
meditation. So, but people, not everybody notices that. Like a lot of people probably have a lot more tools to work with than what they realize they do. And it's just
Okay.
because you have to know the tool exists in order to put two and two together. And
Yeah.
then knowing that the tool exists and remembering to use it when you need it are also two completely different leaps in progress.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it always just comes back to being hyper aware of this moment, not the past, not the future. We spend most of our time living in either or, and almost never are we actually in the present. And when we're not, when we're thinking about what happened in the past, oftentimes it's something traumatic or problematic. And just thinking about it brings those emotions up, which creates the stress response in your body all over again, as if it's happening
Right.
again now. So you're just re-traumatizing yourself over and over again. And like it's a process to get through all of that enough to be able to let it go and accept that it happened. And that doesn't mean that it was okay, but um, we can't keep letting it have so much reign over us
Sure.
now because we can't heal and move forward until we get that less in our heads, which
Yeah.
means learning how to control your own thoughts. So when these thoughts come up, just noticing that they're here is a lot of work in the beginning. And then you start quicker and quicker realizing, oh, I'm 30 years ago. I'm living 15 years ago right now. I need to come back to the present moment and notice what's going on right now. And then that starts to calm the nervous system.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a lot. So for me, I feel very fortunate because I was born into a family where my dad was an active meditator. Like
Oh,
these are
cool.
things he investigated when he was young. So to me, I was able to see it. I was able to emulate that and use it however I needed to. But I would find that when we would start, I would think of my brain as being on a hamster wheel. It's like all of a sudden is such a familiar pattern, jump right in there and just go, 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 go. And they'll be like, whoa, hey, wait, you're on the hamster wheel. And so I would create a word. Some people call it a mantra, but I would create a word to trick my brain. So it would be like, hey, look over there. And then I'd look over there and I would get off of that hamster wheel. And over time, it was just like, hey, look over there, or distract, right? Distract your brain, which is in essence what you're saying, and observing, recognizing, and changing a pattern. But that truly allowed me to get out of modes of anxiety by recognizing, creating a word that distracted my brain. And over time, a whole nother pathway started to be created, right? So our brains are just all this wiring. So whatever we reinforce by, I think of, again, riding down a bicycle down a path. And when I want to change my thinking, I'm like, okay, I've got to take a right here. I know it's going to be rocky and weird, but the more I ride down that path, the more well and easier it's going to be to write it. And
Mhm.
eventually, hopefully, some weeds will grow up on this other one, and I don't want to go down that one anymore. And
Mhm.
truly, that has been incredibly therapeutic for me in my experience of trying to control my thoughts, the path of my thoughts, because trying to not think, or you know that it's impossible. That's just how our human brains are wired. So even when we do go into meditation, not to have the expectation of just sitting there, blank, doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
But it's just finding tenderness and compassion for ourselves and finding another loving pathway to go down, over and over and over again.
Hmm. It's a strengthening. It's just like you
That's
strengthen
right.
a muscle. No one likes planks or push-ups, and you can't really do one properly the first time you
Right.
try. But the more you do and the more you do, I actually, believe it or not, people are going to be shocked by this statement. You do eventually learn to like planks.
Sure. Yeah, you get the dopamine, right? From just the strain of it. It's like your body goes, way to hang in there. Here's a reward.
Yeah,
With anything physically. Yeah.
yeah, your body actually starts to hurt if you don't do them. It's like you have the urge to do it. It's like I have to move in
Yeah.
this way right here because,
Yeah.
use it or lose it, like with anything else.
Sure.
That you're, which is good when we're talking about it in the sense of rewiring your brain. You
Yeah.
want to lose some of those neural pathways. And that's when you know true healing has occurred, is when you completely forgot that the thing even happened in the first place,
Yeah.
which is a place that you can land if
That's
you
right.
keep strengthening when you realize that you're on that pathway, noticing it and then turning your attention towards a different pathway, something more helpful. And I
Yeah.
tell my students all the time, it doesn't even matter if it's true. It just matters if it's helpful or unhelpful. Like, we don't
Yeah.
want to label things as good or bad. Things just across the board simply exist. They just are. And then, but is it helpful or is it unhelpful?
Right.
That's all that matters.
That's right. And truly, if you take it a step further, we wouldn't recognize or appreciate the good if we didn't have the inverse.
Hmm.
And the inverse is there for a reason. It is a measuring device, it is a motivator, it is what helps to keep that yin and yang, that balance. Um, so even when we are having difficult times, it has purpose,
Hmm.
right? It's for our growth. And instead of being resentful or giving up, we have to go in that moment, what is it that I need to learn? How can I grow from this?
Hmm. Yeah, I've heard that some of the happiest people on the planet are those who are actually in places that have always known war, because every single day is a life or death, and you don't
Wow.
know how many, like, tomorrow may be your last day or your loved one's last day. So literally every day is just a party. They're just super happy to be alive, and they don't have the stresses that we have trying to maintain this lifestyle that we've created for ourselves that really makes very little sense. But, and
I've
then,
heard similar, yeah.
yeah.
People that live in poverty, it's like, well, what is happiness? What is joy?
Hmm.
I think it's a state of mind. I don't think it's an external thing. Look at the people that lived in Auschwitz, you
Hmm.
know, and yeah, it's a state of mind.
Yeah, growing up, because I've lived in the same 5 mile radius since I was born. So, and it's a very small town, so it's growing. It's growing a lot. So it's not like it used to, like used to for sure. Everybody knew everybody knew them. And so I've watched all these people grow up around me, and the people who had the best childhoods that were, right alongside my childhoods grew up to be some of the most dysfunctional people. And then vice versa, the people that I know that grew up alongside me who had the most traumatic childhoods are doing quite well for themselves now. And
Mhm.
so that's just something that people don't think about very often is that you kind of need they say in a personal development world or spiritual world, it kind of overlaps a lot of things that the one of the best gifts your parents could give you is a terrible childhood.
Adversity, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, it's the refiner's fire. It's a diamond with the pressure of, coal. It doesn't, it's not created without pressure and difficulty and heat and all those things. So that takes a little bit of pressure off as a parent, right? You don't
Sure.
have to be perfect,
Nope.
but you do have to allow your children to suffer a little bit.
Mm.
Making them so comfortable is not a gift.
Yep. Which is so hard for so many of us, especially that
Yes,
grew up like that.
sure.
It's our instinct to want to do better and be better for our own children. And
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe I can walk a fine line of balance with that.
Same. That's what we can hope for, right? We
Hmm.
are human after all, and it is just our natural inclination to want to carry the burdens for our kids and make things easier. Because we suffer when they suffer. So it's in essence almost selfish, right? I want you to be comfortable because I want to be comfortable. But
Hmm.
yeah,
How
these
many
are
children
things
do you
I
have?
think about. 5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, from 27, well, my son will be 28 in March, and our youngest is 12. We're a blended family.
Okay.
We have two granddaughters that just are being a grandparent is the most amazing experience that I've ever had the privilege of having.
Well,
It's like,
good.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
there's
awesome.
nothing more powerful than the relationships in our lives. And a lot of people lose sight of that for sure.
Yeah. And having adult children is a whole different dynamic, right? Of loving and guiding and still connecting. But I appreciate that about my own parents. We have fantastic relationships and talk about all the hard things, and they still guide me. And I feel really blessed in this life.
That's the real generational wealth.
Yeah, I think you're right on that.
Yeah. Um, Going back to the fear and your tinctures and whatnot, something that really held me back when I was doing essential oils was the fear of the FDA getting involved because they don't like us.
Okay. So I did my homework and follow the guidelines of labeling,
Hmm.
um, and to ensure this is not tested by the FDA. Talk with your doctor. We have to follow the parameters within the legal constraints.
Hmm.
However, I really try not to allow fear to limit because fear is false evidence appearing real. It's not even, yeah. So let's just go. If I'm prompted and I'm doing this with love and intention to offer to those around me something that I know will benefit them, I will do it. I'm not doing anything nefarious. I do my research, I do my homework. And again, if I have something that you need, you'll find me. Right? It's like just like I needed to be introduced to the lady unexpectedly that set that ripple effect for me. I
Hmm.
believe in my heart that that's how this universe operates. I feel like we're guided by our Heavenly Father, by the universe, whatever it is that resonates and feels right to your heart.
Yeah.
I believe it's all the same.
Hmm.
And as long as we stay within that light and love, I think that we'll be directed. So I don't allow fear to limit because I think all need we all need good nutrition. We
Yeah.
all need balanced bodies, because a balanced body is going to be a balanced mind, and mind is everything.
Yeah, that's good that you never let fear hold you back. I definitely did. I definitely was terrified of the government and all of their restrictions.
Okay.
But once
Okay.
you get into it, like when I first started doing things, I went to a lawyer and I was like laid it all out for him. And he looked over it, read everything I had, and was like, "So, what's the issue? What do you need from me?" And I was like, I just want to make sure that I have all my ducks in a row. So,
Yeah.
just in case. And he was like, "Oh." He was like, the government makes everything seem really scary on purpose.
Yeah.
They want to keep you small. They want to keep you constrained
Sure.
because they're easier to control like that. He said, but don't worry, you can just figure it out as you go. And I was
That's
like,
right.
really? It's that simple. And he was like, yeah, yeah. He said, a lot of people, he was like, this is the best legal advice I could give you. I said, okay. He said, most people spend a ton of money getting all of their ducks in a row
Yeah.
just for a business that makes zero money. And now they're in the hole and everything crashes and burns and nothing works out.
Yeah.
So build it from the ground up. He
Yeah.
said, right now, you don't have to worry because I live in the county and everything I did and do is service based. So in the service industry in the county, you don't need a business license. You don't even need a business license. Like it's bottom on the ground bar of entry.
Okay.
Like you don't have to do nothing but just start.
Okay.
And then once you get to a certain point, people will start entering your life that tell you what you need to do and how you need to do it. So, there's only so much that you can do your own taxes. So then you're going to need an accountant. And then you go to the accountant, and the accountant goes, "Oh, I see that you're doing this, this, and this. That's great. Do you have this and this?" And you go, "Oh no, was I supposed to?" And they go, we'll do it now. No big deal.
Yes. Isn't it remarkable how things just unfold? And I've seen it so many times throughout my life that when I say I don't let fear hold me back now,
Yeah.
right? I would step through, be like, oh, I really don't want to do this. But I knew it wasn't because it wasn't something I shouldn't do. It was my brain saying, it's scary.
Hmm.
Don't do it. Don't do it. And then I have that rebellious nature. So I'm like, I'm going to do it anyway. And the more I did and just stepped through that fear and realized, oh, wait, that door just opened. And that just led me to here. Oh my gosh, right? It's like you just have to take the first step.
Hmm.
If you have the right intentions, if you are, um, the doors just open. And when the door is open, that that's where you're supposed to be. And it's just been a beautiful thing. And I can see that it's been that way for you as well. It just gives you confidence and faith and you feel supported.
Hmm. You do. You just have to, that's what, a lot of us hold ourselves back from fear. And the best advice I can give you is to just tune into your heart and like, is it in the right place? Are you doing
Right.
it for the right reasons?
Hmm.
Then just trust that everything will work out because I mean, for the most part, nobody's going to be banging down your door. Yeah, we're such small fish. They don't have the time or the capacity or the bandwidth to worry
Sure.
about us.
That's right. That's right. I'm hopeful that in the near future, there will be a more openness to what it is that we're embarking on.
Hmm.
Um, I think that it's just a feeling I have. I'm just seeing things happen in our society, and I think we're just at the very beginning of a wildfire in a positive way
Hmm.
that is going to create a whole new path for those who want to investigate more. And I'm just seeing that with the people that I talk to and share with. It's like, yep, it's time to try something different. And
Yeah.
I'm grateful to have had that desire planted in my heart of what if we didn't have access to pharmaceuticals? I want to be the one. I want to take the responsibility on myself to learn and educate because I don't want to see people around me suffer.
Hmm.
And if even I have a teeny tiny little bit of knowledge base, it's better than not having any at all. And I think that became my true motivator is what if?
Yep. That's always been what's motivated me as well. My husband, it's a garden planning season.
Yeah.
So, I have done a garden very unsuccessfully for the past like 12 years in a row. And,
Okay.
but I'm learning, little,
Never stop trying. Yeah.
and I don't. And so the other day I was like, I'm gonna go out here and clean up all of this and take inventory of what we have, what we need, start planning out what we're gonna put where, yada yada. And I was telling my husband, I was like, "Do you want to come hang out? You wanna go do it too?" And he was like, "Not really." And then one thing led to another, and I was like, "Look, I don't particularly enjoy this either." Because he was like, "Do we have to do such a big garden this year? You know that we're never home around this time." Because we do a lot of camping and a lot of kayaking. And
Nice.
so it gets to, it's a garden's a lot to take care of. And he was like, "Do we have to?" And I was like, "Look, I also don't enjoy this the way people think I do.
Right.
I do it because I don't trust that somebody else will take care of us.
Okay.
And what if the grocery stores just cease to exist? I don't want us to starve for 5 to 7 years while we try to figure out how to grow our own food now because gardening is not as easy as people think it is. And people, again, I grew up around gardens. I grew up with just in your backyard gardens. I grew up on like three different farms, but we're not going to get into like the details of all that. So all of these people that are, you know, they were adults when I was children, when I was a child,
Yeah.
and I saw them have gardens year after year after year because I'm my lovely, I guess lovely, I don't know. I don't like to sit around and small talk. I'm busy. There's like 1,002 things that I want to learn and
Yeah.
do. And I can't study if I'm just sitting here like on your couch staring at my phone. Like I can't do that.
Yeah.
So, and that leads people to be like, "What are you doing all the time? Why don't you ever come see us?" And so I started posting on like Facebook stories and Instagram stories what I was doing
Okay.
leave me alone. And what I was doing was gardening mostly and like learning how to do that. So then I had people suddenly they think that I know all of the things about gardening, and I absolutely don't. And I had people who were adults who had gardens when I was a child
Okay.
asking me gardening questions. And I'm like, "What?" What do you mean you don't actually know what you're doing? And turns out people rave about tomato plants because tomatoes are weeds and they require zero effort.
I've learned that living here in Alabama. I'm like, wow, they just come back in droves.
They do. You don't even have to plant any. You plant
Oh,
a couple one year and they just pop right
yes.
up next year. More than you want.
But isn't it interesting that we always think that we are the ones that are not, it's almost imposter syndrome, right? That we're not the ones that are knowledgeable. We look to others as they must know much more than us,
Hmm.
right? It's just interesting how our perspectives are.
They're
So
wrong,
for
aren't they? Always.
yeah, so for you to say the people that I looked at as the experts are really actually just winging it. Well,
Yep.
welcome to life.
Literally. And that's the thing that, we want everything to be concrete and structured. We do the
Sure,
same things with words. I talk all the time. A good example I use is people get um, confused when you say the door, hold it, because they expected you to say hold the door. And just because you reworded it, they're suddenly completely lost because they want everything to be so clear cut, structured, and life is not. It's completely abstract. You live in your own world just like every single other person on this planet lives in their own little reality bubble.
yeah,
And we have no idea what other people's reality bubbles look like. We
right.
don't know what they experience.
Yeah,
We're gently, briefly bumping up against other people's reality bubbles. And if we don't, the only way we can see into them appropriately and properly and truthfully is to listen to how they explain it to us. Because anything, any judgments we make on, oh, we see them doing this, so they must this, are
sure.
always wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Brene Brown calls excuse my language, but shitty first drafts.
Yeah.
It's like we walk in and we already create a narrative in our head, and it's just like
Mhm.
if we just take a step back and allow them to, verbalize, then it just fades away.
Uh-huh. Yeah, we
Just
gotta,
it's our own filter in which we're bringing those words through. Yeah. And just recognizing that as humans, I think we can have a little bit more compassion for each other.
yes. We don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are.
Yeah. I
Mm.
agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
And once we learn all of that, there's it's not a lot, but it feels like a lot because the culture is so way over here from where this is.
Yeah.
But once you get over here, everything starts getting a lot simpler and you start to realize that being a person is a ride. It's a ride. Every single one of us are just like screaming internally as we're spinning around on this planet
Yeah.
that's hurling through space. So like that's exactly what it feels like when you think of it like in those
Perspective.
terms.
Yeah.
That's exactly how everyone is experiencing life. Everyone is winging it. Nobody knows what's going on. Most of us are doing the best that we have with what we have available. And that varies very drastically from person to person. But if you can understand that, then it opens up the doors to compassion and forgiveness and love and community. Because again, gardening is hard because it's not supposed to be a one person job. That's why I've had such problems with it
Yeah.
throughout the years. It's not really even a two-person job. Like it can be, but even like to fully the extent of replacing your grocery store purchases with food, and then, that requires um, learning how to garden in the fall, in the winter, and
Yeah.
around the seasons, so that you're eating seasonally, naturally, instead of like it's not as hard as it had like as we've created it to be. So what I'm doing this year, because I know that we like to camp and we like to kayak, and no, I don't
Yeah.
want to. You know, I've decided to do a little co-op this year. So it's me and my reluctant husband who just kind of gets drug along for the ride, and three of our neighbors. And I've got us a group text going, and we talked about what we wanted to plant.
I love that.
Yes, I'm so excited about it. And so it's here at my house, and so I'm kind of like I gotta be the one that uh directs per se. But I got us all planned out, and then I'm just going to text them when things need to be done and like, hey, who's available tomorrow to come do this? Or,
I thought
start.
it's such an awesome idea.
Yes.
Yes, it takes pressure off of you. You have a collaborative effort, not just physically, but mentally. And
Yeah.
um, man, that's wonderful.
It's wonderful in so many different ways. Like, not only are we figuring out gardening more effectively, with less work, less pressure, but also we're building the community, we're building those
Yeah,
relationships because everybody is in a state of perpetual loneliness. We've forgotten how to connect to one another, like really connect. And a lot of us, you see a lot of overcompensation when it comes to trying to connect. And like I used to have that problem for sure. I would
mhm,
scare people away because I didn't know how to do anything mildly. It was like I'm a very 250% or nothing type of person. And when you only have a couple of people in your life, 250% is way too much
yeah,
for any person to handle. So you kind of got to like, you have to have that community to spread, because we're all like
yeah,
that. All of us are too much for one person or even two people. So we need the community so that, if um, Aunt Marge doesn't feel like talking today. She's just like, I just need some downtime, please. Like, we don't take it personally. We go, okay, do you need anything? All right, well, I'm going to go talk to Lucy, and like, and you just
yep,
kind of bounce around until you find who's got what you need that day. And it's not personal because you
yeah,
understand nobody's 100% open and capable all of the time. But yeah. Anyway, I don't know how I got from guard. But yeah. So we're building
yeah.
community.
Filling each other's need. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that was actually something that I needed to hear today. I've been asking for an answer and questioning, and I'm like, how do I process this? And without knowing, you just gave me exactly what I needed.
Awesome. I'm glad. Isn't that
Thank
it
you.
always works like that?
Always.
Yeah, these podcast episodes are more for me than they are anybody else. Like I'll always, and it's almost never during the conversation. It'll be later when I'm editing that I'm like, oh, I needed to hear all of this. That fixes that, and that solves that. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
But
That was
what
awesome.
the other day when I told my husband I was like I'm going to go out here and clean up and take inventory and see what we got to work with, see what we need to get. He didn't. He was busy doing other things, so I texted the co-op group and I was like, "Hey, I know it's short notice, but
Yeah.
if anybody is available and not doing anything, this is what I'm doing right now." One of them
Nice.
was like, "I'll head right over." I said, "Awesome." So they came over and we got done in a single hour what would have historically took me at least four. It's,
Outstanding.
and I mean, gardens, when done correctly, produce way more than one family can do
Yep.
with anyway. So,
Especially with tomatoes
especially with
in
tomatoes.
Alabama.
Yes.
Thank
We
goodness for chickens.
we used to have chickens. We don't anymore. We got chickens not by our own choice. We had, our son was he's very play in the dirt boy. And he was all sorts of into farming when he was like 2. So my parents were like, for his birthday, here you go. We got him 4 chickens. Are you kidding me? You got my 2-year-old 4 chickens
Oh, that's awesome.
for me to take care of at my
Right.
house. Thank you. I mean, like, how do I even react? So we had them for like 2 years, and then I got pregnant with my daughter, and I just couldn't take care of them anymore. And I was
Yeah.
like, so I had 2 toddlers, and I was pregnant, and then had a toddler, and I was like,
Whew.
please take these chickens, take them. So now we're very reluctant. Like, I like the idea of chickens, but I've been there. I know what it means. So I don't know. Maybe the co-op will expand, and we'll,
Hey, I like it.
yeah.
I think it's you're onto something. We need to go back to that.
We do. I saw this thing on was like a Facebook meme or something one time. It was a guy talking about how expensive lawnmowers were. And he was like, I think we're looking at this problem in the wrong way. It's
Okay.
not that lawnmowers are too expensive for this one family. It's that there's probably too many lawnmowers on your block. So if
Okay.
everybody pitched in like $20 and bought one lawnmower, and then
Yeah.
everybody just took turns with the lawnmower, and that's the thing is that we used to live in collaborative villages, and then, I could take up a whole lot more of your time explaining how we went from collaborative villages to where we are now and how we need to move back towards the collaborative villages for our physical health, our mental health, our emotional health, our community relationship, loneliness problems, like all of the
Yeah.
things, if we would just learn how to work together a little bit more.
Well, I think that there is a pendulum that will swing to extremes, and I think we're heading back to that. I think that nature is helping to rectify that. And
Mhm.
I think there are things that are happening within this planet that are helping us to see that.
I agree
It
completely.
takes time
It
and
does.
patience, but those of us do the work, right? We can
Individual.
help. And each one individually, each one of us matters.
Yeah,
Yep.
it does. A lot of people, so many people are living in fear, and I understand. I get it. I get where they're coming from. And I just keep telling them, got to make a mess to clean a mess. If
I
if
like that.
if your closet has been your catch-all, where you've been stuffing things for 5 years, you
Yeah.
got to pull everything out and destroy the bedroom before
Yeah.
you organize it, go through it, and put it back in an organized manner.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
the rising of the phoenix.
Yeah.
Got to be optimistic. And
I
yeah,
like
individually focused and I mean, like, so my whole podcast platform, whatever you want to call it, the tagline is healing ourself to heal the world because it starts with the individual. And a lot of people think that it's selfish, self-centered, egotistical to focused on yourself and your own needs and your own healing, but it ripples out from you. And that's exactly how we got the world in the state that it is one individual affecting everybody around them in
hmm
one way or another. And historically, it's not been a great way because energy is contagious. And if you're portraying all of this anger and depression and, uh, just all of the not helpful emotions and aspects of life, then that's exactly, every one of us have run into somebody who was in a crap mood and walked away in a crap mood because
Sure.
of we
Sure.
if we just, we fix it the same way we messed it up, and it's just projecting all of the good. I say good, I don't like good and bad, the helpful aspects,
Yes.
like the kindness, the compassion, the forgiveness, the not taking things personally,
Right there. That's the key.
yeah.
Yeah. We make things about us. Yeah. But think about when you're flying, they say you can't help your kid if you don't help yourself. So truly keeping yourself oxygenated and conscious is the only way you're going to help other people.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Because you can't show up as your best self if you're not taking care of your own needs. We can have all the best intentions in the world, but if we're not taking care of ourselves, we don't
That's right.
feel good. And if we don't feel
Right.
good, then we tend to be a little on the grumpy side, and our patience is shorter than it normally would. So then we might end up snapping or saying something that we didn't mean. And
That's right.
then, it just cascades from there.
That's right. Yep.
But this has been wonderful. I won't take up any more of your day.
Oh,
Thank you
I've enjoyed it.
for
Thank you
all.
for having me. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing space with me and talking through the things I love to talk about.
Yes, I've loved it, and we can absolutely do it again anytime you like if you have certain directions
Same.
to go.
Okay. Okay. Absolutely. Maybe we could spend some time talking a little bit more about the specifics of the tinctures or
Yeah,
uh, anything. I'm businesses. We could do anything.
we could. We could. I think
Yeah.
it would be a great time for us and everybody involved.
Awesome. I
So,
appreciate you. Thank you, Savannah.
thank you. Tell people where they can find you. You're the
Oh, yes. Blue Bales Farms, BLUBAILES -farms.com is our website. Hopefully you'll put a link down there. I do free consultations. I just love to learn and to help. So if anybody has questions or doesn't even know where to start, yeah,
Where did the
uh,
blue part come from? The blueberries.
blueberries. Blue, our last name's Bales.
Yeah.
And so that was just a creative, my husband's got such a creative brain. And he's like, what if we did blue bales? And I was like, I love it. So it kind of grew from there.
Well, it's
So
super cute. I love it.
thanks.
I got one of your I got one of your parasitic tinctures.
Ah, the parasite purge.
Yeah.
Yes.
Um,
Excellent.
for no particular reason other than like it just the talk about parasites kept popping up in my life and I was like cringy about it and I was like, let me just
Yeah.
cover my bases.
Okay.
Let me just do that. And
Yeah.
it is I've always prided myself in like I tell my kids all the time, they're like here, here's some uh cough medicine or whatever. And they're, oh, it doesn't taste good. And I'm like, I always tell them, medicine's not supposed to taste good. It's not candy. And
Right.
so I've always been able to like just whatever. And that's some stuff. I'm telling you what, that's some.
You can taste the clove oil in there. It is, yeah, it's very pungent, but incredibly therapeutic. So that is one that I just don't put underneath my tongue. I'll put it in a little bit of water, and put it in my mouth, let it sit for a short time. The beautiful thing about tinctures is they're absorbed right through the mucous membranes in our mouth, bypassing our digestive tract. So it immediately is absorbed into our cellular body or our blood system, ready to do its work. And boy, does it.
Okay, cool. I've been putting it in juice, I found.
Perfect.
Makes it a
Perfect.
lot easier for me.
Whatever medium, yeah, it's okay. And especially for the kids, right? It's going to be a little bit more palatable.
Oh yeah, because I have a hard time getting them to take anything ever.
Anything. Yeah. That's why I love the tinctures because you can hide it I in juice, or I'll even do it for my granddaughters. I put it in a little bit of chocolate milk and and they're like, we have our concoction, grandma. And it just make it fun, make it fun, make it taste a little bit better and they don't even know what they're getting.
Yeah, here's your magic
So
potion.
good for there you go. Yep. All about it.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I'll let you go. I'll let everybody go. This has been great.
Awesome. Thank you, Savannah.